talk about something that's going on in the news. Right now, one of the biggest stories in the country is the situation that happened in New York City on the subway. Now, I don't want to get into this from a political standpoint. I don't want to get into this from a racial standpoint, but I do want to talk about this in terms of how it applies to us as security guards. If you're not aware, last week there was a situation where there was a homeless person, I believe he's on the subway, and there's varying reports that he was threatening people. He was being aggressive, he was yelling, screaming, and at some point in time, a good Samaritan, right, decided to intervene. That third party intervention. He gets up behind the guy and he puts him in a rear naked choke, takes him down to the ground, sinks the choke in, and then tries to subdue the guy. Now, the reports are that he had this guy in this rear naked choke for somewhere between 8 and 15 minutes. That's the report, is that this chokehold, this rear naked choke, was applied somewhere between 8 and 15 minutes. Ultimately, it ends up with the subject, the guy that's in the chokehold, dying. He ends up dying from strangulation. And how this plays into us being security guards is, I want you guys to think about two things. Number one, if you're intervening in a situation, or if you're going hands-on with someone for whatever reason, you have to remember that deadly force is only justified if someone has the means, the motive, or the intent and the opportunity to do you grave bodily harm or damage, right? That's the only reason why you can apply deadly force. Now, you might say when he applied this chokehold, he was not intending to kill this person. That is irrelevant when it comes to the fact that this person has died. When this person has died at the hands of something that this person did, he is now responsible for that. Now, this court case, it might go to court and he might be completely acquitted. He might be able to go on his merry way. But even in that situation, for you and for me as security guards, if we find ourselves on the wrong end of a manslaughter charge, most of us are going to have to fight this case on our own. I looked it up today. The average cost of a defense attorney in a manslaughter case is anywhere from $250 to $500 an hour. $250 to $500 an hour. Guys, is it even conceivable that you could pay that? I make a really good paycheck where I work. I could not pay $250 to $500 an hour for an attorney to try and clear me of a manslaughter charge. So the most important aspect of what I'm saying to you here is, whether you're going hands-on and it's justified, whether you're in a situation like this gentleman here who's choking or strangling out this subway guy, there is a level of restraint that comes along with the responsibility of either intervening as a third party, or working as a security guard, or being your own person on the street in an EDC situation where you're having to fight someone for your own personal protection or the protection of your own family. There is still a level of restraint. When the threat is no longer a threat, you are required to stop doing what it is that you're doing, because this sliding scale can very easily go from you being a victim or you being a third party that is intervening on behalf of other people, weaker people. You, myself, we all see ourselves as sheepdogs, right? We want to help, we want to protect. You might potentially intervene in a situation like that, but in that situation, in that instance, if you don't exercise restraint, you can easily go from being a victim, being a third party person who's intervening on behalf of other people, to now being the assailant. And if you become the assailant in the eyes of the law, even if you're acquitted, it is going to be a wrath of hell for you to clear your name, for you to get your life back, to you to get your freedom back. So think about that. A lot of times in these situations, what I see is the politics of how you feel about certain things. It bleeds over into how you view something like this. Personally, living here in Portland, I deal with homeless people every single day. You will never find someone who is more tired of the bullshit that I have to put up with the homeless community here in Portland. You'll be hard pressed to find people who are more frustrated, who are more agitated, who are more sick and tired of the shit that I have to deal with crackheads and drug addicts here in Portland. But if I allow that mentality to bleed into how I interact with that demographic of people, if I allow that mentality or that thought process to bleed into how I approach defending myself or defending someone else, I too could find myself in this very same situation, and so can you. Guys, I want to give you guys a little bit of homework. There is a movie on Netflix, and it is called Soft and Quiet. Soft and Quiet is a movie about 5 women who have an outlook, who have a perspective, right, on current events, on a certain demographic of people, on a certain political leaning, right? And how all of that, unchecked, when they find themselves in a situation, it puts them into this wind tunnel of bad decisions and how everything spirals out of control. We cannot allow our personal outlook, our political outlook, our societal outlook to outweigh our responsibility as sheepdogs and as protectors, because ultimately that is our job. Guys, if you haven't seen, Nate Diaz was at a club. This was like 2 weeks ago. Nate Diaz is at a club. Now, there's conflicting reports as to why this guy ran up on Nate Diaz, but my point is this. Nate Diaz takes him, he puts him in like a guillotine, and he's got him dead to rights. The guy passes out, the guy drops to the ground, Nate walks off. He didn't knee him in the chest, he didn't head kick him, he didn't jump on top of him and ground and pound. He showed great restraint in a situation where he had every opportunity to really put the boots to this guy. But he showed great restraint. And as people who are living this lifestyle, the protective lifestyle, the sheepdog lifestyle, we must too show restraint. I appreciate what this guy might have been trying to do, but at some point he should have stopped. And the fact that he didn't has now led him to a situation where he will have to answer for that in court. I don't want that for you. I definitely do not want that for myself.